If she's in your head but not in your life, that is not love, that is not connection, that is obsession. It's the mind's way of holding on to something that no longer exists in reality. And this is where so many men fall into a trap. They confuse constant thoughts of her with proof that she must be the one. They believe that the intensity of thinking about her means she is special, when in truth, it only means they haven't let go. Your brain is replaying old moments like a movie stuck on repeat, trying to find meaning in what's already gone. That obsession feels powerful, but it's not leading you to clarity. It's leading you deeper into a fantasy. When she is not in your life, you're clinging to fragments. You're replaying her smile, her voice, her presence. But notice how all of it exists only in your head. She isn't showing up. She isn't making the effort. She isn't reaching out to you. The only place she exists is in your imagination. And when you let yourself live in that space, you're not actually in love with her. You're in love with the idea of her. You've turned her into a symbol of what you think you need to feel complete. That's why the obsession grows. It's not about her. It's about the part of you that feels empty and believes she's the answer. This is why I say obsession is a signal, not a solution. It's your inner alarm telling you something is off, that your focus has been misplaced. When your mind can't let go of someone who isn't there, it's a sign you're avoiding what you really need to face. Your own healing, your own growth, your own ability to stand on your own without leaning on her presence. Because the truth is, no matter how much you think about her, you can't force her back into your life. No amount of replaying conversations or wondering what if is going to change reality. The harder you hold on in your mind, the more powerless you become in your actual life. Men waste years stuck in this cycle, chasing a ghost in their heads. They tell themselves, if I can't stop thinking about her, it must mean something. But in reality, it just means they've given her too much space in their mental and emotional world. She might be living her life, moving on, not even thinking about you, while you're burning energy every single day, keeping her alive in your head. That is wasted power, wasted focus, wasted time you could be using to build yourself, your purpose, your future. When you shift your perspective and recognize that obsession is not a sign of love but a signal of imbalance, everything changes. You stop asking, how do I get her back? And you start asking, why am I giving so much of myself to someone who's not here? That's when you reclaim control. That's when you realize that the thoughts don't have to control you. They can guide you to see what's missing inside yourself. And once you confront that truth, the obsession loses its grip. So if she's in your head but not in your life, listen carefully to what that really means. It doesn't mean she's destined to be with you. It means you're holding on to a memory instead of reality. It means you need to take back your energy, take back your focus, and give it to the one person who actually deserves it. You, because a man who obsesses over someone who's gone stays stuck. But a man who sees obsession as a signal transforms it into strength, and that is when you finally move forward. If she's not in your life, but she's constantly in your thoughts, you need to recognize something important. Presence matters more than memory. The human mind has this powerful way of polishing the past, of taking the best moments and replaying them until they feel larger than life. You remember the way she laughed, the way she touched your hand, the way she made you feel like you were the only man in the world. Because memories play like highlights. And it's easy to convince yourself that because they feel so strong, they must still mean something. But here's the truth. You can't build a future with a memory. You can't share your life with someone who isn't showing up in it now. Men fall into the trap of believing that the intensity of what they remember somehow overrides the reality of what's happening. They say, but we had such a strong connection, or she used to care so much. And maybe that was true at one point, but what matters is this moment, not the past. If she's not calling, if she's not making time, if she's not investing in the relationship now, then the memories you hold on to are just echoes. They are not reality. And yet, so many men give those echoes more power than the truth right in front of them. Presence is proof. If someone values you, they make space for you in their life. They don't disappear, they don't go silent, they don't leave you wondering where you stand. Love shows itself in action and consistency and showing up day after day. If she's not present, then she's telling you everything you need to know. You don't need to overanalyze. You don't need to look for hidden meanings in her silence. Her absence is the answer. But this is where it gets difficult. The mind resists letting go because memory feels safe. Remembering her keeps you connected to the emotions you once had, and those emotions feel real even when she's not around. That's why you catch yourself replaying old conversations, scrolling through pictures, or holding on to small signs that maybe she still cares. You're living more in your head than in the world around you. And that's dangerous because it blinds you to the truth. You are giving your energy to someone who is not here while ignoring the opportunities, the people, and the life that is actually in front of you. You need to understand that a woman who truly wants to be with you will not leave you guessing. She will not live only in your memories. She will show up, reach out, invest, and make you feel her presence. And if she's not doing that, then no amount of nostalgia or mental replaying changes the fact that she's chosen not to be part of your present. The more you feed those memories, the more you stay stuck in the illusion of what once was instead of embracing the reality of what is. So stop asking yourself why the memories feel so strong and start asking yourself why her absence is so clear. Presence matters, action matters, consistency matters. And if she's not giving you that, then you're wasting your life clinging to shadows. You deserve a love that exists in your world right now, not one that lives only in your imagination. Because when you finally accept that presence matters more than memory, you stop chasing ghosts and you open yourself up to something real. When she's in your head but not in your life, one of the most dangerous mistakes you can make is confusing silence with mystery. Many men fall into this trap. They believe that because she's distant, because she isn't talking, because she's not reaching out, it must mean there's something hidden, something deeper, something left unsaid. They start convincing themselves that her silence is a signal that she must secretly still care or that she's testing them. But most of the time, silence doesn't mean mystery, it means disinterest. If she wanted you to know she cared, she would show you. If she wanted to be in your life, she would be present. Silence is not a puzzle to solve, it's an answer, plain and simple. The problem is when you're caught up in thinking about her, you start romanticizing even the lack of communication. You read into it. You say to yourself, she hasn't called, but maybe that means she's waiting for me to call. Or she hasn't said anything, but maybe she's shy, maybe she's scared, maybe she doesn't know what to say. That kind of thinking traps you in illusions. Instead of accepting her absence, you create stories that keep you holding on. You let her silence live rent-free in your head, and the longer you do that, the harder it becomes to face the reality that she's simply not choosing you. What makes this so dangerous is that it feeds obsession. The less she says, the more you think, the more she disappears, the more you imagine. It becomes a cycle. Her silence creates space, and instead of moving forward, you fill that space with fantasy. You give her more value than she's actually showing, more importance than she's actually proving. And in doing that, you make yourself small. You allow yourself to revolve around someone who isn't even orbiting you anymore. But here's the truth that you need to accept. Women are not as confusing as men often make them out to be. When she's interested, she shows it. When she wants you, you feel it. When she values you, she communicates it. A woman who loves you will not leave you in the dark wondering. She won't play vanishing games when you matter to her. She will make sure you know where you stand. Silence isn't mystery, it's clarity. It's her way of saying without words that she has stepped back, that she has moved on, or that she's simply not invested. And the sooner you recognize that, the sooner you free yourself from chasing what isn't there. Instead of asking, what does her silence mean? You should be asking, why am I trying to find meaning in her silence at all? That question shifts the focus back to you. It makes you realize that every second you spend decoding her absence is a second you're not living your own life. A man grounded in his strength doesn't get trapped in this game. He doesn't waste time searching for signs in someone else's distance. He recognizes the truth, accepts it, and moves forward. So if she's quiet, if she's distant, if she's not in your life but only in your head, stop trying to turn her silence into mystery. It's not mystery, it's the answer you don't want to accept. And once you finally accept it, you'll no longer be held hostage by thoughts of her. Because the man who learns to stop chasing meaning in silence is the man who regains his power. When she's constantly in your head but not in your life, it's usually because you've placed her on a pedestal. You've turned her into this idealized version of herself, almost like a flawless character in a story you keep replaying. In your mind, she becomes more perfect with each memory, each thought, each what if. But here's the problem: pedestals create illusions, they distort reality. They take a human being with flaws, complexities, and imperfections and turn her into something larger than life. And when you do that, you don't love her as she is, you love the fantasy of her. That's why it feels impossible to move on, because you're not letting go of the real woman. You're trying to let go of an idealized image that you've built in your head. When you pedestalize a woman, you start to measure yourself against that image. You tell yourself she's too good, too beautiful, too special, and you unconsciously put yourself below her. The moment you do that, you create imbalance. She becomes the prize, and you become the one endlessly chasing, endlessly trying to prove yourself worthy. And let me tell you, no man who values himself should ever operate from that position. A relationship is not built on one person towering above the other. It's built on two people meeting at equal ground. But as long as you're looking up at her from that pedestal, you'll always feel like you're not enough, and you'll keep her in your mind far longer than she deserves. Think about it. How often do men replay only the good parts when they think about a woman who's no longer in their life? They remember the laughter, the connection, the spark, but they conveniently forget the arguments, the disagreements, the moment she didn't show up, the time she pulled away. Why? Because pedestalizing erases the flaws and magnifies the highlights. That's why she seems unforgettable. It's not because she's perfect. It's because you've edited the story in your head until she looks that way. But here's the truth. No woman wants to be idolized like that. At first, it might feel flattering, but eventually it feels suffocating. When you place her on that pedestal, you strip away her humanity. You don't see her for who she really is. You see her as this untouchable figure, and that dynamic makes real connection impossible. A strong man doesn't elevate a woman above himself, nor does he lower himself. He sees her as human, equal, someone who has strengths and weaknesses just like him. Breaking free from this trap starts with shattering the illusion. You have to stop replaying the highlight reel and start remembering the whole picture. Stop pretending she was perfect and acknowledge the flaws you ignored when you were too busy idolizing her. Stop telling yourself she's the one that got away and realize she's just a person. Imperfect, inconsistent, capable of both good and bad. The moment you take her off that pedestal is the moment you see her for who she really was, and that's when the hold she has over your mind begins to fade. Because here's the hard truth. She's not in your life for a reason. If she belonged in your present, she would be there. If she truly valued you, she would leave you idolizing memories while she lives her life elsewhere. Pedestals don't keep people close, they keep you stuck. And as long as you keep her elevated in your mind, you'll remain trapped in longing instead of moving forward into reality. The day you stop putting her on a pedestal is the day you start reclaiming your power. When she's in your head but not in your life, one of the biggest reasons you struggle to let go is because you've tied your sense of identity to her presence. You've made her part of your definition of who you are, and without her, you feel incomplete. This is why her absence feels so heavy. It's not just the loss of a relationship, it feels like the loss of yourself. But here's the truth. No woman should ever be the center of your identity. The moment you allow her to become the reason for your happiness, your confidence, your sense of purpose, you hand her control over your life. That's why she lingers in your head. Because you've convinced yourself that without her, you're somehow less of a man. This is a dangerous mindset because it creates dependency. Instead of standing firmly in your own strength, you lean on her for validation. Instead of building your own life, you make her the centerpiece, and when she leaves, all that scaffolding collapses, leaving you with nothing but the echo of what you lost. That's why she occupies your thoughts, because she wasn't just someone you loved, she became the foundation you built your life on. But foundations that rely on someone else will always crack. A man who truly values himself knows that his identity cannot and must not be built around another person. Think about it. When a woman senses that you've made her your whole world, it doesn't make her feel more loved. It makes her feel pressured. It feels like you've handed her a responsibility she never asked for to be the source of your worth, your confidence, your happiness. That weight pushes her away, not because she doesn't care, but because no one wants to carry the burden of someone else's entire identity. Ironically, the very thing you thought would keep her close, making her the center of your life, is the very thing that often drives her further away. A man who is secure doesn't need a woman to complete him. He is already whole. He has his own mission, his own goals, his own direction. When she comes into his life, she adds to it, she enhances it, but she never defines it. And here's the beautiful part. Women are far more drawn to men who already stand strong in themselves. When she sees that you know who you are without her, she respects you. When she sees that you have purpose beyond her, she's intrigued by you. And when she sees that you don't lose yourself in her presence, she values being part of your life rather than feeling like she's your entire life. This is why it's so critical to rebuild your identity once you find yourself stuck thinking about her. Ask yourself, who am I without her? What matters to me outside of her? What goals have I neglected because I was too focused on her? The answers to those questions will remind you that you are more than this relationship, more than this memory, more than this person you've been holding on to in your mind. The stronger your sense of self becomes, the weaker her grip on your thoughts will be. Because in the end, she doesn't stay in your head because she's unforgettable. She stays there because you've made her the anchor of your identity. And once you reclaim that anchor and root it back in yourself, you'll finally stop revolving around her absence. The man who builds his identity on his own foundation never loses himself when someone else walks away. When she's in your head but not in your life, a big reason you can't let go is because you're holding on to hope. Hope that she'll come back. Hope that one day she'll realize what she lost. Hope that if you wait long enough, she'll finally see your value and choose you again. That hope can feel comforting in the short term, but in reality, it's what keeps you trapped. You're not fully living in the present. You're stuck in limbo, clinging to a future that may never happen. And here's the hardest truth to accept. Holding on to hope is often the very thing that prevents you from healing and moving forward. Hope is powerful, but misplaced hope is destructive. When you put your energy into waiting for her return, you stop investing in yourself. You put your life on pause, as if everything you do from this moment on depends on whether she comes back or not. That's why weeks turn into months, and sometimes even years, with her still living in your mind, rent-free. You keep reliving old memories, interpreting signs, analyzing every possible what if, instead of facing reality. And reality is simple. If she wanted to be in your life, she would be there right now. And the danger of hope is that it convinces you to compromise with your own self-respect. You'll tell yourself it's okay to wait. You'll make excuses for her absence. You'll lower your standards just to keep the possibility of her return alive. That's not strength. That's self-deception. And a man who truly values himself does not put his life on hold for someone who has already chosen to walk away. He understands that hope cannot be the fuel for his future. Purpose, self-respect, and action must take that place. Letting go of hope doesn't mean becoming cold or bitter. It means reclaiming your power. It means recognizing that your worth is not tied to whether she returns or not. It means reminding yourself that love should flow freely, not be begged for or waited on like a delayed gift. When you stop waiting, you start living. And when you start living, you realize there's a whole world of possibilities, opportunities, and even love waiting for you outside of the shadows she left behind. Here's the irony: the very moment you stop hoping for her return is often the moment she notices your absence in a different way. Not because you are sitting around waiting, but because you've moved on and created a life that doesn't revolve around her anymore. That shift in energy changes everything. She no longer feels like she has power over you, and that's when she often starts to wonder, did I lose him for good? But whether or not she comes back doesn't matter anymore, because by then you've built yourself into a man who doesn't need her presence to feel complete. So if she's in your head but not in your life, stop clinging to hope as if it's a lifeline. It's not. It's a chain keeping you tied to a past that no longer exists. Break it, and you'll find yourself lighter, stronger, and freer than you've been in a long time. A man who releases false hope opens himself to real possibilities.